Alright, so for this lesson we are going over the 10 major body systems of the human body. Now, this is a great lesson for me, and I'm a great resource because I'm a certified medical illustrator, which means I've gone to medical school, I've taken the test, and I have passed with a portfolio of my medical illustrations in order to get certified. Okay? So, another medical illustrator, granted before there was even certification for medical illustration, we're looking at the art of Frank H. Netter, who pretty much, he started out as a doctor, and his notes and drawings were so good people started commissioning him or paying him to actually draw parts of the body. He became so good and started experimenting with paints that doctors wanted to buy his paintings. And he realized he could actually make more money by selling his paintings of medical illustrations rather than being a doctor at the time, because there really wasn't any medical illustrators. So to this day, this is the Bible of medicine pretty much. Frank H. Netter's MD, so he did finish becoming a doctor. The Atlas of Human Anatomy, as you can see, 25-year anniversary, and we're in our 6th edition, okay? We finished it not too long ago, but this 25 editions really mean the last few editions. But this is a fantastic book. It has beautiful, detailed medical illustrations for doctors to look at. Everyone who goes to medical school is pretty much told, get this book, because it's so beautiful, so detailed, and so well done that everyone studies it. So let's get started on doing some of our own medical illustrations to understand how the human body works. Now I have that printout for you if you want to use a body and you have a printer or you want to trace it on the screen. If you don't want to do that, you can easily draw a basic body. I'm really simplifying this. If it is not to proportion, that is okay. Granted, I can draw a lot better than this, but you know, do you want me to take forever or do you want me to get it done? It's a trade-off there. But this kind of way of drawing it out, if you don't have access to a printer, allows you to have a body that is broken up into parts that we can still draw everything we need in. Alright, so just draw that body. There will be multiple of these videos, so if you need to space them out over a few days. Granted, each of these are going to be used in your science class as well, so count this towards science and not just art this time. Let's begin with the circulatory system, which means the layout of blood vessels, arteries, and veins in your body. Now, when I say circulatory system, we're going to use something called didactic color. When I say didactic color, I'm going to color, let's say, the arteries red and the veins blue. But in real life, if a surgeon goes in, they are not going to find that the arteries are blue. And they're not going to find, the veins are blue, and they're not going to find that the arteries are red. Because all blood is really a color. It really only changes a little bit of shades of red depending on how much oxygen is, but it never turns blue. We'll tell you that. So go ahead, get get out a red and a blue to start us off with. And the first thing I'm going to draw is actually not part of the circulatory system, but it is a very important part of the body. I'm going to have a red curved line right here. Because this, boys and girls, is a muscle called the diaphragm. It separates your pleural cavity, okay, in your chest from your abdominal cavity down below. So beginning with the heart, we're coming down and your heart actually rests on top of this. And we're going to split it into 4 chambers. Okay? The left side's going to have a much thicker wall on it, where the right side not so much, because the right side only needs to pump blood to the lungs, okay? And again, this isn't proportional. You just need to learn about it. The left side of the heart, though, since it needs a big, thick wall going around it, needs to pump blood to the rest of the body, so it needs to be more buff than the other part. We have 2 major vessels that are coming down from, let's say, the circle of Willis. Okay. That helps fuel your brain. Okay. The aorta, just coming up, down, and around. Your aorta will follow your spine down and then split into 2 major branches that will go into your legs. Okay, through the inguinal canal. And there's a few others that go to the outside, but your majority will actually stay toward the front of your leg. Split around your knee, come back together, and go and actually circulate around your foot and come back as veins. Granted, I am a little rusty, I will say, when it comes to medical illustration. You have major vessels that break off that feed your stomach. A really large one that comes off to your liver. 2 huge ones that come off into your kidneys. And kidneys are very blood rich. Another one that feeds your spleen. And of course, multiple ones that help feed all your intestines in this area. Subclavian artery that goes out into your arm and down. And that's from both. Okay, and of course they will split into different parts of that. Okay. Now here comes for the didactic part. All right, so blue. We're going to have the right side of the heart more blue because that's actually deoxygenated blood that needs to go back to the lungs. So it's going to be pumped out to the lungs where it's going to collect up oxygen, sent back to the left side of the heart, and then pumped into the rest of the body. You have your vena cava, which runs parallel to your aorta. Granted, not as big and firm. Okay, arteries kind of have a puffiness to them. If you bend them, they jump back. They're very elastic. Veins, not so much. They kind of have a feel to them. Each one of these is going to have a vein that it's its counterpart. So where arteries bring in, veins also run beside. Subclavian veins coming through your shoulders and run down, run up, and collect what they need to. Not so much on the circle of Willis. The brain is such an interesting thing with the blood-brain barrier. So go ahead and fill in the rest. Let's see, popliteal, saphenous, popliteal, inguinal, iliac. There we go. So the circulatory system. All right, so that's just a basic circulatory system. Go ahead and write that down for your notes for science as well. While you do that, I am going to go ahead and draw Granted, I'm trying to make this as androgynous as possible, but they're kind of looking like ladies, so oh well. Ladies have a lot of the same parts as guys, except for a few things, and I'm not going to go there. All right, so we've done circulatory. Next up on our list is respiratory. You have been talking about plant and animal cells. Okay? Respiratory. I always do that. Hang on. My bad, I'm sorry. Respiratory. Brad, I'm running kind of on empty today too. I need another cup of coffee. Respiratory. This includes your lungs in your pleural cavity. All right, so again, we have the diaphragm, that muscle that helps you breathe, to divide up our torso into the pleural and the abdominal area. So when it comes to lungs, and most people represent lungs with purple or pink, okay? Yeah, I'll just go with purple. Okay, we actually start in the mouth and nose area and come down. So you might have some winging because of nasal cavity and all that. You have your larynx, which is where vocal cords are held. You can actually feel it on you. Okay. Coming down, I'm going to split into the bronchi. Okay, 2 branches of bronchi. Lungs are definitely, and they have some ridges to them because they're up against the ribs. Okay, this all fits snug. I know we draw like we have all this negative space, but all this has to be together. There's literally no empty space in between. There can't be. Usually if there is, it's like you have gas in your intestines, but if there's like gas in between organs, that's actually a medical matter, and that's not good. So let's go ahead and start drawing the twin. They rest right here on top of this diaphragm, and they only have a space in between them for where the heart sits. Okay? Now inside, if we did a cross section of this, there's actually multiple little branches that split into even smaller branches. These are not just sacs of air. I used to think that when I was younger, they're just sacs of air. No, there's a lot of branches. So we go from bronchi to bronchiole. These split very small until we get to the very end to where they have the alveoli. These are the dead ends. This is where all the action has, because around each alveoli is a whole network of blood vessels, and it's very thin. It's only 1 cell thick in this area. So there can actually be an exchange of oxygen between the blood cells that are rushing past in these capillaries and the alveoli itself. But yes, respiratory having to do with the lungs. We'll do a few more before we stop. And I will chunk it. Okay, I'll do one more and then you can have a break or something. All right, this next system, you want to talk about being packed together. This next system is very packed together because we have 25 feet length of this next system. And that is the digestive system. I'm about to run out of battery. There we go. All right. If you want to draw this person with not so much an hourglass shape, please do. There's a lot to cover in this part of the area. A lot. And remember, if you have access to a printer and you can print out the bodies of these instead, it would save you some time. You do not have to draw them all. Ooh, that's a drunk hand. All right. So for our person who's a little bit more portly, we are going to give them a nice digestive system. Okay, so again, a splitting area between these, of course, is the diaphragm. Diaphragm. Okay, so we're going to add the diaphragm right there. And this is digestive. So everything, all the action except for chewing and swallowing happens below the diaphragm when it comes to this system. So if you watch Magic School Bus, you know that it starts in the mouth after chewing your food into a bolus, goes down the esophagus, actually has a little detour that goes around the back of the heart and comes in a little off center, okay, into the diaphragm through the cardiac sphincter into where the stomach is. So we have stomach. Then we have what's called the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. It's very short. It's just that much. Then we have another short stint, and that's called the jejunum. Okay, so duodenum, jejunum, and then we get into a lot of mess, and we can just do it with this kind of line in the middle. We're talking tightly packed. Most of the nutrients is being absorbed in this part. Not so much water. Some water is being absorbed at this point, but this is where the nutrients and gathering energy out of what you ate happens in the small intestine. And eventually, the ileum, the duodenum, jejunum, ileum, empties out into the cecum, and we do have a cute little appendix right there. The appendix is a non-necessary part of the body. If you have an appendectomy, it's okay because you really weren't using your appendix in the first place. But it does come off the cecum. The cecum starts our large intestine, and it does come in like bunches. And we're going to draw in front of, and it goes around town. It does have folds on the inside of it to increase surface area. Like I said, you got 25 feet of this. It's all good that's all coiled up in there, because otherwise we'd be 25 feet long and about, about this big around waist-wise. Make all the girls on Instagram jealous. All right, so the large intestine starts to come around, and then it takes an S-turn into what's called the colon, and, well, you can imagine what happens at this hole over here. Number 2's happen at that, and that is the anus. Anus is the muscle-lined last sphincter that the digested food has to go out of. I'm trying to think of other names that are more polite than, let's say, poop. Feces. Okay, feces are the scientific term for that. All right, so digestive, we got esophagus. So go ahead and label. I'm going to go back and label each of these so you can have a better review. Esophagus, diaphragm, diaphragm, stomach, and I won't do the whole duodenum, jejunum, and ileum with you. We'll just go with more easy small intestine. Okay. Large intestine, where most of your water is absorbed. That's why fiber and water is so important for this part, because if it gets packed up, you're going to be constipated, okay, and that's painful. All right, to the colon, which is that last S curve in it, and yes, we're going to write anus. All right, so go ahead, you do need to label these because a good medical illustration has labels to it. All right, so go ahead. If you need to pause the video, pause it now. Write all those down. All right, we'll go back to these others. Okay. So we've got trachea, larynx, bronchi, or bronchus if it's just one. Bronchi, we'll say both. Here, we'll have a little split there. All right, and lung. Bronchus, bronchial. God, I really do need coffee. Bronchial. All right, and this one's tricky to spell. Because sometimes you hear that southern, yeah. You hear that southern, I was taught by a very southern person, because I studied at the Medical College of Georgia, when it was still called that. Okay, so alveolus, and you have the capillaries that go around that. All right, so there we have labels for respiratory, circulatory. You simply need to know that red means arteries. Blue, veins. Veins are bringing blood back to the heart, and arteries are taking blood away. Okay, so aorta is the main artery taking it away. This one that goes all the way down here. Vena cava is the one bringing it back. Runs alongside. We've got the heart, which is a four-chambered heart. So we got, let's see, atriums and ventricles. Okay, so that's what you need for those. If you need to take a break, find me in the next video. I know these are kind of long, but I promise you these will help you very much in science.